welcome everybody. My name is Pia Reyes. I'm from Uruguay and I'm doing the MBA currently at Hult in London campus. Here with me is Sabrina. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, my name is Sabrina. I'm an MBA Hult graduate and I graduated in 2015 and my home campus was Shanghai.
Okay, so we'll be asking Sabrina a couple of questions today. Let's start with why did you decide to study at Hult?
Right, so at the time when I was starting to look at business schools, it was really for me, if you really think about it, the content more or less, no matter which business school you're studying at, is more or less the same. You're going to have some sort of content around finance, around economics, business management, strategy, etc. So for me, it was really more the aspects and the experience around it. And I was specifically looking for a business school that has a focus on entrepreneurship, that is very international and has a strong focus on practice rather than just theory. And that was really for me where Hult really stands out, because it really offers the business school really offers all those things. And it's really part of the mentality to teach skills around entrepreneurship, because it's really not just a skill that you need if you want to start your own business, but it's also important if you are looking to have a career in a big corporation, for example.
Yeah, I really can support that, especially the diversity in the class. We were a class of 70 and we had 30 different nationalities.
Yeah, it was the same in Shanghai. I think you can't really choose Shanghai as a home campus anymore, unfortunately, because it's just an amazing and crazy place. But even there, I think Shanghai at the time was the smallest cohort by far, but even there we were, I think, close to 40 nationalities. And in just this crazy place. So yeah, was a great experience.
I'm glad. And how do you think this has impacted your life plans?
Quite dramatically. So, I decided to do, again, for me, the business school, or why I did my MBA, was not just to kind of go up the corporate ladder. I always wanted to start my own business. And I felt like I needed to gain certain skills and experience to help me to do that. And so Hult really helped me to do that jump. And originally I thought I would I'm from Germany and I thought I would go back to Germany, but I actually ended up in London and I'm still here. Maybe not forever, but for now I am. And it's also really the network and the people you meet. Through Hult, I've met people from all over the world, and you really keep that network and you stay in touch with those people. And I think this is also quite unique, that no matter where I go, in which country I visit, there's always someone I can meet.
That's amazing. I'm looking forward to that part. And what were you doing before doing your MBA?
Right. So I did several things. So one was my family business in the hospitality sector. So I started to work there quite early. Actually, when I did my MBA, I was 24 years old. So I was actually the youngest in the cohort at the time.
I can imagine.
Yes. And then I've also studied, for my undergrad, I studied tourism and event management, which is quite interesting because I actually never really worked in tourism or event management. It was also, to be honest, a little bit random for me to study this. If I would know what I know now, I think I would have studied something more in computer science, which is a completely different area. But at that time, to be honest, or to be fair, I didn't really know exactly what I wanted yet, and I was kind of just figuring out things. And then after that, I was actually working a couple of years in marketing-related jobs on both agency side and corporate side.
That's quite. And how about now? What was your life after?
So, right. So after the MBA, I started my own business called Gartenswerk, which was an IoT-enabled indoor garden that will allow people to grow food at the at the push of a button, essentially, using hydroponics. And so that was a crazy journey. We've done that for about 3 years. And we reached sales in 15 countries and had great demand. But the issue for us was that we couldn't get the funds to go into large scale manufacturing, which is quite expensive for a product like this. And so unfortunately, at some point, we had to make the decision to stop operations, which was in January 2019. And then after that, I started a new job, and my current role is called an entrepreneur in residence, which is a slightly fancy name for a project manager. And I am working at a company called Setting of One, which essentially is a family-owned startup factory. And there, my job is to take ideas from ideation stage through to successful market launch, until these ideas essentially become a spin-off and run on its own. And so there I work on a variety of projects. And then on top of that, I started another company on my own. So I like to keep myself busy. And that company is called Palki, and it's in the data privacy space. So I'm quite passionate about data privacy. I think it's a very important topic. And so Palki offers privacy management solutions for both businesses and individuals. And that platform is currently under development and hopefully will be launched in August.
That's why you're in the title of serial entrepreneur. I can see that now. What about coming back? Did you always wanted to do an MBA?
The answer is no. I think, when I did my undergrad and started working, as I said, at that time, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And it was kind of, figuring things out. And for me, I always knew, okay, at some point I want to do my own thing. I want to have my own business. And I thought I needed guidance. And that was the point when I started to look at, doing an MBA, using that time also and the experience to sort my thoughts out and, find out what I want to figure out. Or what I want to do with my life, essentially. So, and it's quite interesting because when I don't know what's your experience, but when I was at Hult, quite a lot of the students there were in a similar situation. I mean, they were maybe not as lost as I was at the time, but, they were looking for changing segments, changing industry, changing countries. It was all about, okay, changing the status quo. It was not just about, okay, adding a title to your experience. And that was very much the mindset of everyone you had around you. And this is quite inspiring, I think, also studying at Hult, because you have so many like-minded people around you.
That's exactly what happened in my cohort as well. No, don't worry, we're all figuring out, deciding, and we've changed paths so many times on the course of the MBA. So I can see that more. We have questions from the people here. Would you want to? I'm gonna read the first. Is what inspires you to pursue an entrepreneurship journey? What are your tips or advice to budding entrepreneurs?
So, I think for me it was always seeing something from start to finish and being the person who has built it, leaving something behind. I think, for me, having that ownership and knowing, okay, whatever it is that you build, it is something that you started and you did it the way that you wanted to and how you saw it through. And for me, it's really also that, and every idea that I have or any kind of business that I pursue, I'm always very passionate about. So I think for me, I'm also very much driven by passion. The idea of getting up in the morning and having a standard 9-to-5 job just simply doesn't excite me. I do like the variety and the difference and the challenges as well. So I think if you're someone who loves to be challenged, who tries to find solutions to all sorts of problems, because that's what you face as an entrepreneur, essentially, like the impossible problems that you have to deal with, then I think, then the entrepreneurship journey is an interesting one for sure, and also one where you get a lot out of it. In terms of advice and tips, I think stay true to yourself, truthful to yourself. As you start your business, you will need support. You need help from people. You can't do it on your own. So be humble about that. but also know that as people come along and give you advice and tell you, you know, what you should do and what you shouldn't do, trust on your gut feelings. So yes, do your research and do your studies and everything. But nowadays, I think people underestimate, you know, how much your gut feeling actually guides you into the right direction. So if you feel something isn't right, or an advice just doesn't make sense, or a person doesn't really help you, then make that decision to discontinue either that relationship, or to say like, okay, thanks for the advice, but this is not what I'm going to go ahead with. Because that way you also still own your business, and you know, whatever you decide, it's up to you and not whatever everyone else is telling you.
Yeah, and related to that, there's a question here that says about asking help, and how did your connections at Hult help you with your career or your business? Did they help in any way?
Yes, actually they did. So, I mean, with Hult and the people you meet there, they come from all walks of life, from all sorts of backgrounds and areas. So it's almost certain that no matter in which area your business is, you will definitely have people who have experience in the segment or can connect you to people. So actually the Hult network has been incredibly helpful. And, you know, I reached out to my friends and colleagues and asked like, hey, you know, you've worked in the segment. Do you know someone? Can you introduce me to someone? Can you give me feedback on this? You know, because they're familiar with the segment or the industry. So it has been of huge help for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I have another question here related to what you say, that as an entrepreneur, you need to have the passion and that thing inside you that guides you through the obstacles. Can you name one of the challenges or obstacles that you face when pursuing your entrepreneurship aspirations?
So especially at an early stage of a business, there's always the question around resources and timeline. So unless, you know, you have the funds available yourself, you have to get very creative how you get the means to fulfill your business. So for instance, why I was saying earlier, you know, I wish I would have studied computer science, is because my product is very technical and I'm dependent on developers to build it for me. I do have a basic understanding, but by all means, I do not have the coding experience to build the product myself. So, you know, and then you have to figure out, okay, if you don't have the skill yourself, how do you get people on board? How do you reward them? If you can't pay them, do you give them shares, etc.? And then also, if you try to bootstrap it, which is always, I think, the best route to go, bootstrap it as much as you can, because that means you keep ownership of the business. How that usually means it takes much more time. So if it takes much more time to launch to market, is there a downside because you maybe miss that magical spot when you should launch to market? So those are, I think, the key challenges that you will face, especially at the beginning of the journey.
And your ideas, your passion about the privacy of the information, etc. Did that when did that initiated?
So it's a mix of things. I would say so in Germany, we are in general quite skeptical. I think the mindset in Germany is, you know, you should only use cash because you don't want your bank to know what you spent your money on. But so that's obviously just one part of it. In my case, it's with my startup actually. It was just around the time when GDPR launched. If you're not familiar with GDPR, it's the General Data Protection Regulation in Europe, which protects the rights of people in regards to their data. And so I've dealt with that quite a lot from a business side, and realized, okay, so the regulation is there, but there is not really an infrastructure that helps efficiently for businesses to manage personal data on behalf of individuals, and for individuals to understand how their personal data is used. And for me, I mean, I personally check literally my Google settings every 2 weeks, and my Facebook settings and all, and I request my data from all sorts of companies. And it's really difficult. You don't really understand your digital footprint. And so it's born out of a personal frustration that I already had while I was working with Gartenswerk. And so that was kind of the reason, the inspiration to start this.
And can you say that how much of the study and Hult helped you to come up with ideas or creativity in general?
So in my case, I think I don't necessarily lack creativity. So I do have a lot of ideas. For me, it was really, again, the skill set, how do you start? Where do you start? And I think for a lot of people, who have an idea, have a similar issue, they say, okay, how do you actually start with this? And at Hult, for instance, we had the Hult Challenge, which is essentially an 8 months project. I think it changed now. Yeah, it's shorter, but you have to come up with an idea. You have to create a business plan. You have to figure, kind of have a plan on how you bring a product to market, how you would develop it, the financials, the cash flow, the budgeting, everything. And that, having a kind of safe environment, a safe space to practice building a startup is an incredible experience and so valuable. And again, just also connecting that for people who maybe, want to go into a corporate career, even there, those skills are so good to have, because it just allows you to see a lot of things differently and to have a different perspective in your workplace. So yes, that was really, really helpful at Hult.
What is it that you enjoy most in your business?
Wow, well, a lot of things. I think seeing it coming together, that's the exciting thing. And then bringing it to market and seeing that it adds value for people and people using it. I mean, that idea itself, that thought is just so exciting, like something that you poured all your energy into and all your passion because you've identified a problem and, you want to offer a solution, not just for yourself, but for other people. And then they use it and they see that same value. I think that is such a rewarding experience and also something so amazing to do. The downside of a startup is that, until you get the reward is a long time. From the first time you have your idea until you get to the stage to launch, you have to have very thick skin and you have to, stay on it and really push yourself. Because the time from idea until you get that reward can be a long journey.
Not to discourage.
Yes.
And where do you?
Something you learn at Hult too.
Yeah.
On top of it.
Take feedback. Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Yeah, I've never been a fan of that question. So it was actually also in my career sessions at Hult, something that I was asked and I always struggled with a little bit. So I'm quite clear in a way that, for me, success means that I have my own business and I'm independent and, and it's running and it's working. So I think that's kind of my goal, where I see myself in 10 years having my own company, successful company. Where I am going to be in 10 years and if, house and dogs and cats, that kind of stuff, I'm not really thinking about. So that to be seen.
That's a good answer. I know I like it. There's people curious about your experience living at Shanghai. What are the pros and cons of living there in Shanghai?
So, yeah, I mean, maybe some of you have been to China and to Shanghai. If you haven't, I mean, I think what was striking me with Hult is like, when will you get the opportunity again to go to a place like China for studying? And it's just such a different place. I always say, okay, to be honest, it was a love-hate relationship. Because there are a lot of things that are just completely different to Western culture, but it just amazes you, and at the same time you're also just shocked sometimes. So it's a very intense experience, but if you have the chance to go to Shanghai and if you're willing to do something, or you're actually excited about doing something different and experience something different, I definitely can recommend it. Plus, if you plan for your career to say, okay, whatever you're looking at, or if you're kind of looking, for international work, excuse me, in Asia, I think being in China helps you to understand, a little bit the culture and the mindset, which can be really, really helpful for future relationships. So just kind of bringing that back with my company Gartenswerk, we actually were going to manufacture in China, and actually traveled 3 times again to China to find the right manufacturer and to get everything sorted out. And the experience of having been to Shanghai and, you know, speaking kind of very basic Mandarin was so helpful. Yes, I was trying to, and I was able to negotiate at the fake market, but that's about it. So yeah, no, so yeah, if I can for sure recommend Shanghai as a campus.
I really wanted to go, but yeah.
The current situation.
Yeah, coronavirus. This question is quite interesting. If you could go through your MBA at Hult all over again, what would you do differently to support your career?
So I at the time, it's a good question. So I didn't rotate. So I think it's not so much about, you know, what I would have differently for my career, but I think, you know, it would have been nice to rotate. And if you can, then you should. Obviously, this year it's very unfortunate that you can't. You never know what happens. And again, for me, it's not so much. Those kind of questions are tricky because, you know, every day we make decisions, and we never know how life would have looked like if we would have gone a different route or a different path. You know, you make a decision and then you only get to know that life. So, you know, you never know how things would have turned out if you would have done things differently. Just in my case, as I said, if I would have known that I'm really going to be drawn to technology and innovation, I would have studied something as nerdy as computer science. But then again, maybe in that case, I would have never done my MBA at Hult. So so far, I'm happy with how everything went and how I made my choices.
That's a peace of mind. That's good to have. Yeah, and regarding the not being able to rotate, I'm still getting to know a lot of people doing the MBA all around the world, because the classes, especially the electives, are with people from Dubai, from the States. And so besides the time difference, the rest I'm getting to know pretty interesting people. So everything has its perks.
Also something that I want to mention, because I'm not sure if all of the listeners are aware, but there's something really cool about Hult, and it's called lifelong learning. And essentially, pretty much once you graduate from Hult, as an alum, every year you can participate in one of the electives as an alum. So, and you can choose from any of the classes and any of the campuses. Usually they're gone very quickly, so you have to sign up quickly. It's like, I think it costs like £100 or so. But for the rest of your life, you have every year the chance to participate in a class in whatever topic or area you're interested in. And that also kind of shows, again, the mindset around Hult about lifelong learning and always, you know, being connected and meeting new people from all over the world. And it's something that I for sure have definitely enjoyed quite a lot.
Have you taken any this year or are planning to?
Fortunately, this year, no, because for me, it's also, I always enjoy going to campus. So, and then with the situation when I said, okay, this year I'm gonna skip it, but next year for sure.
I just took one about blockchain and crypto assets that you would have enjoyed given your profile with the privacy. Yes. Definitely recommend for next year. Related to that, to tech and blockchain, there's a student asking about the clubs in Hult. Did you create your own club when you were in there? Would you participate in any of the clubs?
So in Shanghai, I was actually president of the sustainability club, which was interesting because at that time in Shanghai, sustainability wasn't necessarily a main topic, but you had a lot of quite exciting smaller businesses that were quite active in the area and were pushing for quite a lot of things. And so we had a couple of events with local companies coming and presenting and talking about sustainability in China, which was usually around food. So food safety is a big issue there. And so, yeah, that was actually quite exciting. And, you know, that also kind of somehow inspired me with Gartenswerk to do that business. So you never know where it leads to.
Yeah. For the listeners that don't know, there are pre-formed clubs at Hult that you can join, and you can pitch to become a president or a board member. But you can also have the possibility to to create your own clubs. If you're interested in blockchain, if you're interested in tech, you create a pitch and you pitch it in front of the whole classes. And then if your club gets selected with enough members, then you go ahead and have the opportunity to bring speakers and do a lot of events that are interesting and add value for everyone.
There's actually, talking about blockchain, just see there's one question, which I like to just give a quick kind of answer to. So the question is, considering blockchain is a growing market, which are the industry vertical sectors you had worked with, and how do you see its future prospects in the next few years when we are in an industrial revolution 4.0? So yeah, this can be a very long answer. I think cryptocurrency is its own topic, and there's a lot happening. So I'm going to speak a little bit more about the other use cases for blockchain. I think where we're going to use and on a broad scale adaptation first is going to be supply chain. There's already a lot happening in the area, and a lot of, there are already a lot of the big companies in the field who are innovating and working in the space. And obviously there are a lot of advantages because you can have fast transactions, you can have smart contracts, and you can just streamline the whole process, and connecting, also linking it to industrial revolution, to IoT solutions and products. It helps you to monitor the whole supply chain, which makes it safer and securer and more efficient. So I think supply chain for sure is a big segment for blockchain, among others, but one of the main ones.
Yeah. So thank you, Sabrina, for your time. We are getting to 6:30, so we don't have more room for questions. I'm sorry, but it was lovely to hear from you. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope to see everybody in person soon.
Yes, and thanks for everyone for joining. If you have any personal questions, you can find me under Sabrina Palme on LinkedIn. Just shoot me a direct message, and I'm happy to answer any of the questions you weren't able to answer now. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, Sabrina. Have a good evening.
Bye, you too. Bye.
Bye.